Commercial.
Welcome.
It's DJ and Alex. Today, we kind of come up with a list of things to talk about for the next year. But today, I think one of the topics we come up with, because it come across our desk a good bit lately, is leasing. I mean, look, I had two businesses that I had leases on, or I was paying someone to lease, and then another one where I was leasing space to people. It constantly comes up in this world, and there were things that I wish I would have known before my first one. Things that I learned as I went into it, and a lot more that I know now. But yeah, today let's talk about commercial leasing 101. What tenants must know.
It's some of the worst stuff I think you get to do in this business. I feel like because everyone wants you to be an attorney. Mm-hmm. I have to tell them all the time I'm not an attorney by any stretch of the imagination, but I think learning a good lease abstract and how to abstract them well save a lot of face in commercial leasing. But I mean, we're probably doing would be 5 right now, so it just is on the desk and on my mind. So I figured let's go ahead and knock that out while we've got probably, and they're all drastically different.
Yeah. So what's some of the? Yeah, I think one of the things a lot of people recognize in leasing is terms and how long they go. Who's actually on the line for the money. I mean, I had some that it was me and not the business. I had some that was the business. It's.
I think nowadays everyone's making you do a personal guarantee.
Yeah.
And I don't know how well that will hold up or not. Again, I see them in every one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's kind of like a non-compete. Like, can you really?
So
maybe you can. I don't know.
I'll talk about when I bought Pickle Barrel, kind of what came in on that. So I came in and I assumed a lease, but I renegotiated that assumed lease when I came in, because the lease was with the business owner I had bought it from, and he still had a couple years left on his. So I came in and I negotiated a 4-year with kind of some rent rates went up a little bit year over year, and just kind of kept up with the times. But that one, it was a personal guarantee on that. Now when I got out, I didn't. That was a business I didn't go out the way I wanted to, and essentially I don't want to say kicked out of the property, but I was pretty much kicked out of the property because I hadn't paid rent. I think it was 2 months, but there was a personal guarantee on that, and because I was amicable, it kind of worked out where we worked the deal out and figured it out.
But I mean, it is solid enough where they can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And he did, and it was one of those. Hey man, you got 30 days. So it's like, all right, I hear you. I understand why.
Yeah.
Sometimes in those situations though, you don't want to admit my business is failing. But
yeah.
It was what it was, and and here's the craziest part about all of it, walking through that entire lease and that kind of that decline of the business, the failure of the business, and all that with the landlord. I will tell you this, and this is what he told me, and if situations like that come up, communicate. Yeah. Don't ghost. Don't be a child. Be a man about it. You're not gonna win every game. But in that situation, he told me, he was like, because you were communicating with me, because you actually answered the phone, would call me back, would come see me. He said it made it a whole lot easier, and still have a really good relationship with that guy.
And to that topic, we work both sides of all of this, and there's a lot of landlords that they have their set of terms and price and rate and all of these things, and I have to come back and kind of ground people and tell them it's a symbiotic thing. I said, I know you want X, Y, and Z, but if you squeeze your tenant to death and they can't pay this absorbent amount of money or whatever you're asking them to do, they will go out of business. You'll be without income again, and we'll be back at square one. And so, to exactly what you said, it's a symbiotic thing, and I think it's more, we do a lot of that coaching on the landlord side, where it's like, hey, give them 2-3 months of abatement. Let them just get some cash flow rolling in, the business built, not a looming payment of the lease over their head. And in the long run, maybe you're out, the 3 months of money you never got, but they tend to stay longer. They do better. It's a lot of, coaching on that side.
I'll say this, the bar that Harrison and I opened, we went to the property owner and said, hey man, we'd like to put a bar in here. And he laughed at me because the building was in such poor, like it was in really, really bad shape. Like I'm not kidding when I say there were holes in the roof like this. And got everything. He's like, man, and he's like, man, you've ever stepped foot in there? I was like, no, it's got four cinder block walls. It's right here in proximity to other ones. I feel like I can figure it out. So he's like, all right, we'll walk in, but you can't walk more than 4 feet into the building. I'm like, oh, it is bad. So we walk in there, and you could, like I said, you could see the sun through the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad. And so we go in, and we kind of crunched the numbers together and came up with a figure on what it was going to cost to fix it all and do all the work and get everything and inventory and all of that stuff. And I told him, I said, hey, look, the one thing we can figure this all out for this, and this is what we're going to do. And I need you to fix the roof. If you can fix the roof, I'll fix everything else. And I'm like, okay, cool. And because we we went in there and we white walled that building and started from nothing, pulled all the electrical, everything out and put all brand new in. And the craziest part, the first year's rent, because we did all of that work on this building, and mind you, when the landlord bought the property, he bought it because he wanted the other piece that was attached to it, and nobody wanted to buy it because this piece came with it. And because at that time everything was on Olive Street, it wasn't really on 3rd Street or anything like that. And so we went in there and did all that, and he's had a tenant in that building since Harrison and I did the remodel and all of that on a piece of property that he had he bought it because he needed this.
Right.
And so he's had income on that because he gave us a very good deal. But we put a lot of money into his property for him. And so there's a lot of different ways, like you said, it's very symbiotic. You could put any and everything together. I've seen some crazy ones where, there's equipment attached in restaurants. I've done a lot of that kind of stuff where there's restaurant equipment attached. And the problem with that is some of these, when you do those with equipment, the property owner is taking the write-off and on the equipment and they're not giving it to the restaurant. A lot of times in the restaurant owner, you need all of that, and then when the equipment fails as a restaurant owner, you have to replace it. And so because it's gonna fail, it's gonna fail. And it's like, do I have a time span on where I'm not paying for this anymore because I've essentially replaced it all. And so it's working out those little details in it, and some areas figuring out, as a landlord, you don't want to feel like you're getting hosed and leasing for nothing when you have value. But then also to grow, properties. I mean, also as a landlord, there's a world where I don't want to have to constantly shop this property for business owners. So you have to find that kind of that happy medium on what good rent rates are. I mean, there's certain areas of town where $10 a square foot is what it is. It's set in stone. It ain't moving. That's what we're charging. And there's some areas of town where it's $5 a square foot. Right? And you just got to find the right spot. So what's probably the craziest one you've come across?
And you've got, your 3 core, 4 core. I mean, look at it. Grows, modified grows, triple net, all of that. We've done leasing for like Fortune 500 companies where they've done triple net leases, and it's like you're leasing it from these guys for $10, $12, $15,000 a month, and it's basically like you own it. Everything's unloaded to you. Roof, below grade maintenance, walls, foundation, electrical, taxes. I mean, all your utilities, obviously, but taxes, insurance, content insurance because you're the tenant too. And I mean, I'm baffled sometimes on why people would want to lease it. But again, to the landlord's point, they come in, they position themselves, they already have the building, and it's in a prime location, and they're not going to sell it, and you need to do business or you lease it. But we've got so deep into the woods with, like you said, equipment is probably the worst. It just, I mean, we had 5, 6, 7 pages of like Here's the equipment. It's an. I did the methodology of like the Hertz rental car when we got all said and done. I was like, how about we all meet there? Everyone get your telephone out and we're gonna video it. And this is what it looks like today. And when we turn into you 5 years from now, like we'll compare the videos if you need to. Mm-hmm. And it just becomes like an absolute chore. And people are depreciating things, and we can't, we only want to carry it for this life. And then these 2 years, you got it. We've done leases and lease purchases where the owner was gracious enough, like me personally, where he would cover the maintenance of the equipment for the first 2, and then the second 2, it was up to us. They can go, and I think, and it's just one of the reasons, but I think leasing is one of the reasons we still need attorneys. Mm-hmm. It just gets so convoluted with attorney speak and how people want to do all of this nonsense. Mm-hmm. But to the same tune where it can benefit someone who's wanting to lease, read a little bit about leasing and get creative in a sense of what you need out of the property. And that it's just essentially anywhere from 2 to 12 pages of creative negotiating. You feel like you can't afford the rent. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's other things you can do that you're better at. Maybe you're good at construction, like you guys said. Mm-hmm. Maybe you didn't have the money for X, but I'd imagine with the bar, you guys did a lot of the work yourself. Mm-hmm. And so in the business, it's called TI. And so you got tenant improvement for, a year, you said, of free rent? Mm-hmm. And you and Harrison came in there and did a lot of that work yourself. Did you probably have a year's worth of rent saved up, ready to roll? Maybe not. Mm-mm. You guys had 2 legs, 2 arms, mm-hmm. and some free time.
And strong backs.
Yeah. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And that's what you can do a lot of the reading on your own and all of this stuff, but I think that's where you hire a professional again to come in. They've seen X, Y, and Z, however many dozen leases. Yeah. And you can sit down and really draw it and say, well, what's your core problem? And then I'm sure in this lease, there's a way we can negotiate around. Maybe it's you can't pay for the first 2 months, or you can't do. There's 1,000 literally ways you can move this around.
A lot of I've noticed, and again, coming from that bar restaurant world, your first 3 months are the most crucial.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't. I'll tell you. So when I had Pickle Barrel, I didn't want to shut the business down, because I didn't know enough about the business, but we worked for lunch. We closed at 3:00, and we did all of our construction after 3:00. And so we came in, we added kind of a divider to split the bar from the restaurant, added the bar, took some walls down, painted, stuff like that. Yeah. Did all of that kind of stuff in the afternoon. But that first 3 months, like I'm looking at my bank account just constantly going down. Like it's, we have some money coming in, but it's going out. We really got to figure this out. But it was really about that 3 month mark where I'm like, oh, man, I hope this works. And it did. It took off. It took off really, really quickly, actually. But it's because we did that. But oftentimes, I think a lot of people go into a lease and they'll sign on today and then start construction. And that's a 3, 4, 5 month process, depending on how much you're doing. Yeah. If you're in a remodel. And so that paying that 5 months or figuring out a way to maybe push that back to open date when leases are due. And, there's a lot in there that I will say, like new business owners and new people for me, young, dumb, didn't know what questions to ask, didn't know how to go about it. Like I said, luckily for me, we were still open and money was coming in. Yeah. But if I'd have just did that construction, I'd have been 3 months of rent. I'd have had to divvy out every month, and would have been like, okay, when is this going to start going? And that, the beauty of the bar is we didn't start paying rent till we opened. Yeah. And again, the deal didn't start on rent till we opened. And so it was because we had those conversations and we worked. And look, the person I leased it from does a lot of leases himself, so a lot of residential rentals, a lot of commercial rentals. And he was it was one of those, okay, you're going to put some money into my property. I'm going to help you out since you're helping me out. Right. And, like I said, they've had some pretty solid business in there. When we had 4 years, and I think the person behind us was 2 years, and the other one was, still open today. So that's been a constant stream of income on that property. just simply because they helped a couple struggling 20-something-year-olds who wanted to
Right.
open a nightclub.
Right.
And I'm very thankful for it. I've also been on the other side where, I had a lease with tenants that were leasing 1,000 square foot from me on a building, and they just packed all their stuff and left. And that's 6 months left on that lease, and it was just it was a mess. And look, I built into theirs. Like, they were paying the property taxes, like everything. Like and guess who owed those when it was all said and done?
Yeah.
So it was. There are ups and downs in it. From a tenant standpoint, like the person that owns the property, it's a win-win. I look at this building we're in now, and what it was originally set up for, and how much money could be made off of leasing each office. And there's a lot of, I say a lot, there's 3 or 4 shared office space type places in this community, and they all tend to do very well. It takes a little time to get them going, but you find you find something that's a commonality. And now, I don't know if you notice, all the offices are filled here now.
Yeah, I did. I walked in this one day and everyone was here.
Yeah, and so it's like this. I'm kind of talking to new people and stuff because I'm new here, but new people that I'm meeting in the building. I'm like, man, I feel like at least once a month we should all just get together and see what everybody's doing. Like, hey, how's it going? Like,
some sort of pseudo incubator space kind of thing. And I think that maybe was the vision from the start when, because I remember when he took it, that's what he was out to build, some sort of incubator space. And office leasing, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole, but it kind of fell, out of vogue with COVID.
Yep.
I think it is on the rise back, maybe not so much in certain areas, but people are doing, they tend to lease an office, A, to just get out of the house, but B, they've got that professional address now, and it's not, my home address in Calhoun. It's, hey, I'm on Louisville, or hey, I'm on Tower, or whatever it may be. But I cannot remember what I was going to say on your other topic. To your thing of, you can build out the leases and all of this stuff. They have some very technical terms, like fixturing period or rent abatement, and they're the same, but they're not, but they're different. That fixturing period, just to kind of define some of the stuff, is you've essentially got the lease and they're letting you come in an X amount of time beforehand and fix the property how you'd like it. It's already kind of built, but we need to come in and paint and change the carpet and redo the floors and X, Y, and Z. We don't want to pay yet. Their landlord's typically okay with it because the lease is signed and locked in, and the changes you're making are an improvement to his property or her property. So you can't take it with you anyway. So God forbid you sign the lease, you do the work, and then you leave. You just got a better property. And then you got abatement where you're in, typically, before I get into that, fixturing period, you're not allowed to run a business yet.
Right.
And then to the abatement side, you're running the business, you're doing whatever work you need to, you're collecting income. You're just not paying rent and it's getting kicked down the can. They call it abatement sometimes, and it's like, hey, we'll do a 12-month lease with 2 months of abatement, but really the lease essentially turns into 14 months. So they're still getting their full 12 of pay. You're just in a little earlier. But a plethora of ways you can do it with extensions and options. And we've got one. We lease some laundromats out. And in that business, it's all contingent on equipment. That equipment has a service life, typically 7 to 8 years. It's obnoxiously expensive. So when we were running the business and the real estate, when our equipment service life left, and I got the bill for, it's like a double stack dryer that you see, this quintessential laundromat dryer. I think it was $14,500 for one, and I needed 17. And then washers go in poundage, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 pound washers, anywhere from $4,500 to $12,000 a washer.
It's just money, bro.
And I'm making, mind you, before we get way too deep into that soapbox, I'm charging someone $3.50 to wash clothes in a $6,000 washer. And I'm covering, use life, putting money back for that, utilities, so water, electric. you're never getting that money back. So when we got the bill for that, we decided, hey, we're going to lease it to somebody. And these guys typically, to what I just said, tend to need massively long leases. Like when we started the leasing journey, this dude was like, if you can't give me a 30-year lease, I don't want it. I was like, God, 30 years. I was like, most people want 1 or 2 years and maybe one-time extension to be done.
Right.
He got an original 20-year lease, first time 5-year extension, second time 5-year extension. And I've never in my life seen a lease that way, but that's what they wanted, and they're all very industry and use case specific on every lease you do. Restaurant bar, I can't tell you how much I hate restaurants. It always, typically, and you can speak to it however you please after I say it, but those people are fickle creatures who run the restaurants. And they know exactly what they need. It's a tough business, and P&L is usually fairly tight on most of them. And so these guys tend to argue about everything. How does it look? Parking spaces, equipment. And I can't tell you, and we work with some really awesome restaurant dudes, and I can price restaurant equipment now. Like, you just look at it, and the minute you put it in there, it's brand new, you put it in there, you turn it on once, they're like, man, that's worth 30 cents on the dollar. It's used restaurant equipment, it's junk now. And I didn't believe it, and we did some food and bev stuff, and I didn't believe it until we started to do it, and I was like, man, this stuff is junk.
It's so,
just goes.
So as a restaurant, you're looking for the cheapest and best. And a lot of times, I'll tell you, for me, when I got in there, there was equipment that was already there, and equipment that I really probably should have changed. I mean, we had a 6-burner stove. I didn't need 6 burners. I could have bumped that down to 2 or 4 and been fine with a bigger flat top. Would have been a whole lot better.
Expensive.
Oh, absolutely. So
Sometimes
we're talking about a $4,000 stovetop, and it was one of those like, okay, we'll figure it out. And then there was things in there like a charbroiler and stuff. Like, there were things in there that we didn't really need.
Yeah.
But they come with the purchase, and you try to sell those. But yeah, nobody wants to buy used restaurant equipment, because here's the thing: you don't clean your restaurant equipment like you do stuff at your home. Like, it's just it's on a line. A lot of people will move stuff out and get back there and clean it up. But unless you're bringing in some professional cleaners once a month, it's really not going to get kept up. And a lot of it's refrigeration based. I mean, all my refrigeration stuff I had to replace 2 and 3 times. And it's just constantly, because it's the South, it's 1,000 degrees in here. You add fire behind you at the stove. Yeah. You're constantly opening these refrigerators. It's hot air just constantly just being vacuum sealed.
So let me interrupt you before we get, because you said something and I don't know about it, and we're running into some of that issue. You said you're taking the lease, you've got the equipment, and maybe you need something different. In your leases you've done, or maybe will they let you come in, you've leased it, everything's kosher. Will they let you sell that equipment and get something different? Or if you need something different, do you have to take it out, store it, or ask them what to do with it, and then put your own in?
So I've only bought equipment. I've never leased equipment, but I was working a deal.
Lease?
Yeah, I was working a deal where there was the space that I was interested in to put another restaurant in, and that was the deal. It was a lease on all equipment, and I asked the landlord. I was like, man, again, when it is officially depreciated, and oh, by the way, you've had it for about 3-4 years with this other place, so I know you've already depreciated a good bit of it. When it's all depreciated, do I still have to keep paying? Oh yeah, you still have to keep paying. Okay, that's a red flag. Do I, like, if it breaks, who replaces it? Oh, you have to replace it. That was a red flag.
Cool.
And then it was if I don't need, because there's a lot of stuff for a specific type of restaurant that's in here. What I'm interested in, I don't need a lot of this stuff. So if I want, that was a question, if I wanted to sell this, can I? And like, oh, no, that's part of the whole lease deal. And I'm like, well, I don't want space eaten up on things that I don't need.
Yeah, and I need something different to go in that spot.
Right. So yeah, it was look, sometimes property owners can be bullheaded and just want to push through, and this is what it is, and it's what it is. And that's, you run into that. And then there's some that are going to be negotiable. But in that particular deal, it was no, it's all or nothing kind of deal.
And that's what We have one, and we're running into that issue where, because like you said, it's very, if you've never been in the business, like a stove is typically not a stove. Some people need this and some people need that one. And so you've got a restaurant, it's in a great spot. It already has, let's call it equipment. We don't know if it works or not. Nobody wants to test it, but it's there and it goes with it and you can't get rid of it. We're trying to figure out the best way for either the tenant or maybe some pivot for the landlord, offer it with the equipment. If they don't need it and they'd like to buy their own, like give them an option to store it or tell them, hey, we'll remove it for you and put it in a storage unit and it's an extra $150 a month or whatever it may be. So we're trying to build some sort of solution around that. But that's why that business, to me, it's very fickle, and it really gets to the point where people think everything's cut, dry, and set in stone. Leasing is probably the wild, wild west. It's all loose and just whatever you want to do, put it on paper, and maybe they'll agree to it, kind of thing.
Well, there's also, because we have this coming in, two kinds of some of the land leases and stuff like that, right? We have one where you can, just kind of like, let's talk about from our end, like the negotiation of this. So there's a lot of guys will do, 1 month rent, or then there's the other property, or the other idea you were telling me about.
Average base rent.
Where you can come in and it's based off of, essentially it's based off the terms of the contract and not so much, what's getting brought in month over month. And they're both, to me, as a property owner, figure out what's best for you. I think on our end, we're going to try to negotiate what's best for us, but also what's best for the property owner. And if I can get a 30-year lease, right, like on those things, that's tremendous for both people.
That's what that average base rent really helps. Do we make more money if that happens? Yes, but it also incentivizes people on the leasing side or landlord rep side to push for a longer term, vet the tenants a little more, because there's things you can put in where, if it's a big, we've done leases where sometimes we're getting $80,000, $90,000 off the stuff. You've got to put in checks where, the tenant, you can't just get that money today and then the tenant's gone in a month.
Right.
But it does incentivize a little better tenant vetting, a little longer terms, pushing for really solid people to come in and do the deal. But land leasing is just also a pet peeve of mine. It's hard to get that idea rolling sometimes with people.
Well, I think a lot of it, coming from the world working in economic development, we sell a lot of things that add value to property, but they don't necessarily give real value. Kind of like adding a swimming pool in a house, right? Like it looks like it adds value, but it may or may not add a single dime to it. And
literal money suck.
Right. And, one of the big sells we used to have, was interstate traffic and things like that. That's closer to the interstate and it's frontage to the interstate. It's going to be more valuable than if it's behind it. But also in the same breath, if it's 5 acres compared to 30 acres and it's right here, and I want to be off the interstate, but I don't care if it's on the frontage. Give me the bigger acreage than the smaller. There's a lot that's come into, I will say, especially along I-20 between kind of Monroe and Rayville, you have a lot of value in land that was, a few years ago, $3,000 an acre, and now it's selling for $70,000, $80,000 an acre. And so how do you, fluctuating that value and what's actually worth what, and it's the deal, and then you see some, and we look, when I was at the city, we talk about these often. $25,000 an acre was appraised value. That was what most stuff came in at, but a lot of stuff was selling for far more than that.
Yeah.
And there were properties that a lot of times asking, like, man, what's the heck's this appraisal? Where's this coming from? Because this just sold right next to it for, $70,000 an acre. Yeah. It's literally right next to it. Why is this only appraising for this? And then they'll bump it up a little bit, but it's still not a whole lot. But it's because right now, if we're being honest, it's kind of the wild, wild west on what's going on, where things are going to develop, what's going to get developed. Everybody knows about Meta, but they don't know how it's all really going to shake out, or what all's going on, because there's still a lot of development attached to that hasn't been announced. And there's things that are coming that are going to be announced in the coming months. And, the more people we get coming in here, the more need for land and dirt is going to come up. And, that's when the rent rates start going through the roof. And
yeah, because a lot of them don't want to sell.
Right.
It's family land for the last 175,000 years or whatever.
I don't blame them.
I don't either.
It's the one thing they're not making anymore.
But that's where it gets into, that's probably one of the hardest, at least for me in this business, like pricing a lease rate for raw land. Mm-hmm. And this is where there's a web of decisions you can make. Then you've got built to suit options and all of this stuff. Like, at least in my head and the way I think, you can start going down every avenue. And it's really hard when somebody calls you and they're like, hey, I got 25 acres right here by X, Y, and Z. I want to lease it. Let's put a number out there. It's like, oh, God, okay. Because you've got to start to think, what can it be? How can we pitch that value and then tie it to a number? And that's just sometimes incredibly difficult. And sometimes, like, people are stopped or they're refusing to let other things in. I mean, I don't know if they'll put another mobile home park in. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to do another solar lease.
Solar leases have been killed in Ouachita Parish.
Okay.
I do know that.
Yep.
The big, massive one that's being built in kind of upper northeast Ouachita Parish is the last one that's going to be allowed.
They have a ton of options right now in Holly Ridge for the solar lease, but from my understanding, the big, beautiful bill has killed some of the solar and renewable energy tax credit. Mm-hmm. And so they're just sitting on that option for another 3, 4, 5 years. And so the land has been basically tied up for nothing. Mm-hmm. But we've come across a lot of that recently, and it should mean, hey, you should go sharpen your skill set on you should price land leasing. But between that and warehouse, that's in my mind, some of the most unsexy real estate. It's just raw land leasing, but it's where things are moving now.
I will. One of the things that came up, like I said, in my 5 years economic development, it was we had in the city of Monroe, and I can't really speak for West Monroe or surrounding parishes and stuff. The city of Monroe, the stuff I pushed, we had 4 massive warehouses, like big, like 20-foot ceilings. And the problem with those massive warehouses is that they were built in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And so the space in between beams, the ceiling heights were even too short. We only honestly had one large one that was for lease that had the ceiling heights that most of these RFPs from the state would come in on. And it was only half the building. The front half of the building was like 10 foot ceiling height. And in the lowest spots. And so, but the backside was like 30, 40 feet in ceiling height. It was, and so it was a difficult building to push, and it was oddly shaped. But we've gotten to the point now where in that area, I think my last year of working in the city, we no longer had warehousing space. And so we now have, with everything that's gone on, we now have a tremendous amount of opportunity coming. I will say, I don't want to speak for them, but there's a group that just bought a big piece of land in the city, and the goal is to develop it building by building, warehouse by warehouse, and to allow Grow Nela to recruit new businesses and stuff into our area and do some build to suit where you come in and you just do the concrete walls. No electrical, no floor even. That's selling
the best thing to do, because we just, again, don't mean to cut you off, but we just ran into that we're working on nail salon. And you don't build your strip out or whatever with that intention in mind for, that single use tenant. But they did and I don't remember the guy's name, but this was his first development, and they did such a great job because they left half of the slab unpoured. And now when we come in on the construction side, I don't have to cut channels in the concrete to put plumbing for, feet wash booths or whatever. Like, it was there. It saved the tenant, I don't want to quantify the number, but a lot of money because it was done. So, it was brilliant. More people thought like that.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that we saw, and you see, is until the 4 walls go up, you just have, like you said, you just have an empty piece of land. It's hard to sell, hard to lease, and sometimes, and look, I saw this firsthand with my dad growing up. My dad, electrician, did a lot of things, but we would go, if we ever had to run conduit or pipe or anything like that, I'm at like 14, 15 years old. I can see it.
Yeah.
Before he knew what was needed, he couldn't visualize what it was supposed to look. I could see those things. I'm saying, oh no, just do this or this. Not a lot of people I've learned can visualize those things before it's done.
Yeah.
And even in my restaurant, I walked in there when I bought it, and I told him, I said, look, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this here, and he's like, man, you're gonna have to show me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that can't visualize those things like that. And so if you build the exterior walls, if you build the facade out and you show the pretty, they can, okay, well, we got most of it done.
Just enough to get that snowball rolling.
Let's go. And this is going to be a good spot, and because there's a lot of times in development, people will come in and they'll just put up a metal building, and it's, well, I don't know why this place isn't working. Well, it's because you skimped on everything. And people see that, but if you can show them, hey, look, this is going to be a really nice, I'll go back to where we were at with Pickleware, like Avenue of America, talking to my landlord there. When his family built that building, there was nothing but trees. And he's like, I used to ride my bike in this area. And it's like going, no, I know, with everything there. He's like, man, when I was a kid, this was nothing but woods. We used to go hunting here and all that. He said, and then they built this road here, and we built the building. And when we did that, there was still trees across the street. And,
wow.
He's like, it was one of those things. People had to believe it. They had to see it to believe it. Look, I even remember in college, before Tiger Market was there, we really, I lived in Marie Place, and we really didn't go that way to go to 18th Street, and then kind of, now I bought a lot of beer underage at that place, but other than that, there was really nothing other than going to Melvin's. There was no reason for me to go right there. And so when they tore all that stuff down and Tiger Market came in, they put Starbucks, it really kind of changed the flow of traffic of Forsyth.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's awful, man.
It gets crazy in the mornings.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, visualizing all of that with the Dolly Walls, with what did with Tiger Market, and how they built this brand new beautiful gas station on the corner, it all of a sudden it like I said, it changed the flow of traffic, and what they bought wasn't valued nearly for what they have now. Right. And so again, it's in those, it's going back to the leases and what's available to you and what you get when you talk to us.
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, that's what it takes to get that snowball rolling. Mm-hmm. But there are tracts of land where, sometimes you need to leave it just a barren wasteland. Mm-hmm. Whether now is quite popular, and I don't, but the lay down yards and the stuff like that. I mean, mm-hmm. just, golly, if I see another dump truck on the road, I mean, but they need somewhere to go, and they need somewhere to park them overnight, and all of this stuff.
I'm working with a buddy now, and it's like, man, he's like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. I was like, I get that. I understand your excitement for all of this. I was like, but once you start doing that, you got to start pulling permits, and we got to start talking about drainage, and we got to start talking about a lot of things that'll start piling up on money really, really quickly, and you don't have a tenant yet.
Yep.
Let's figure this out, because a lot of what you want to do is going to take a month, right? Like 30, 60 days, and you got raw land. Whoever comes to you and wants to lease this, it's going to take a little longer than that to develop out their engineering, their architecture, all that stuff that they need to do with the property. Now, if they want to move in ready lay down yard, they tell you, hey, look, we'll build that into the cost of the lease. Mm-hmm. That's not a problem. We can do all of that and do that for them. And again, let's figure out what the plan looks like and what we're needing to do. And we're working through some of that with them now on how we move water and what do we come in and what do we do? What kind of rock do we put in? Do we fence it? Do we all this stuff? And get all of that, get the game plan put together on that raw land. And this is what you want to do. And we'll put some signs up and start pushing this thing out. And, right now, I think a lot of people are getting antsy on, well, this is here, this project is here, where's it going, what's going on? And it's, it's this time of year, it's November, December, it's always a little slower time of year in our world, but January, February, March, when people that have never been to the state of Louisiana start moving here and start living in this area and looking for things and saying, hey, we'll figure it out when we get there. Because a lot of people will. Their project doesn't start till June, July, but they're going to start moving in January and, finding office space and getting acclimated to the area and getting in tune with what's going on with the projects and finding out that, and this is no shade to Delhi or Rabel, but I make 6 figures a year and I don't know anybody out here and I'm living in Delhi. I'm spending a lot of time in Monroe going to restaurants and going shopping and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe I should look for a property there. So it's to me, it's the double dips that you'll have when people come in, they buy something not knowing, okay, I don't really like it, put it on the market, sell it again and move over here or even move into an apartment or find an office space here, things like that where there's, it's just, you're getting in sync with what the project's going on. And again, it's a 5, 10, 15-year project. So they'll be here a while. And I think some people they're moving in with necessity, looking for comfort. And I think they're going to find comfort after they get here.
Yeah.
You just got to get here. And, I think that's where you'll see some of these land leases, building leases, properties that, I've had people tell me at the city, like, look, I need any kind of warehouse. I need you to know any kind of warehouse.
Yeah.
If you knew what we were looking at now, it's insanity what people were looking for. I was like, well, then go build it for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Go find the land and build it for them. If that's what they're looking for, if it's that incredible, let's start talking to people that'll do the build to suit. Because I know a lot of construction guys in this market that will absolutely jump on that.
Yep.
And out of market. I got one buddy we were talking, he's played ball here, but he was like, hey, look, you have any of that stuff come up, I own this company over here, we do this all over the country, let me know. I would love to put a bid on it. I want to see Monroe grow.
Yep.
And so you got people all over that want to, and at the end of the day, right now we're solely dependent on local investment. Once Dallas and San Diego and LA and Vegas and New York start figuring out what land values are here, what rent rates are here, you're going to start
really
seeing,
low barrier to entry.
You're going to start seeing you're going to see a lot of people in different markets that are like, oh, I can go do this 4 or 5 years, dump it, and not probably sell it for less than what I bought it for, but still make these exorbitant amount of rent rates because the necessity is there for what is needed.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to start seeing that, especially if there's 1 or 2 more big announcements behind Meta. And then the truth started getting out on what Meta's doing and how big that project actually is compared to what's all out there. And I think you're going to start seeing some things where, that land lease we were talking about the other day, we're like, man, I just don't even know. Like, this feels right, but it should probably be this, and it should probably be less. But okay, what if this happens? Oh, well, then we absolutely have to do this, right? And so it's one of those, proximity.
Yeah, and that's what. And again, I hate to say, hiring the professional, whatever, but you've got the causal and effect relationship where you know what's going on. So maybe it seems a little crazy right now, but there are things in the future that will absolutely justify. And I'm very big on when we price, it has to be justifiable. So if you come to me, I can prove it to you as the buyer shows up without a shadow of a doubt. This is why it's that number. It's bankable. It's X, Y, and Z. But also, we've got the technology and the software to your guy's tune where he's like, well, let's put money into it and make it this. And you don't want to tie it down to that specific use case. And also, I worked in risk management, and we were very risk averse with some of the companies that employ me to be that. And so if he doesn't have to deploy capital yet, and we can instead take a photo of the land with a drone and 3D render a laydown yard and a this and a that, and literally it's rock and a fence and an entry and egress. Like, to show people that in a digital listing or a memorandum or any of those things, I think getting with a company that's up to speed and doing stuff like that, instead of just telling you, hey, yeah, that's great, go ahead and add the value now, it'll make it easier for us to sell it. I think that's an incredible disservice to the client. And if you really are, and maybe most people don't label themselves as the analyst or the strategist, but if you really are one of those and you're mentally labeling yourself that, it is not the way to do it. You're unintentionally tying up capital for a client that's not needed, and frankly, a little too risky because you're narrowing yourself down into maybe it's 10 people that are needing something like that versus however many people with the vision of what that raw land could be. And like you said, sign that lease, personally guarantee it, whatever you want to do, put a deposit down, we will build it for you. And it'll be baked in. And so they don't do anything but sign a piece of paper, and then now you can risk-free. Not all the way, but most risk mitigated, deploy the capital, develop the land for them, rock and roll, and go ahead and lease the space. But that is what is happening, a lot of it. And I think there's a lot of people behind that curve because, I mean, exactly to your tune, there's so much stuff coming in. We are, and I've always thought about it like this lagging indicator to bigger markets. And we do have some things, but if you've ever been outside of here, we don't have all the things.
Right.
And what we do have is what people are very attracted in right now is raw, undeveloped, untouched land. That was relatively cheap and up until recent. And so being able to work with a firm that can put that vision in front of people without you having to deploy capital and locking yourself into one specific group of buyers is, almost unquantifiable to how quickly it can get it sold, a higher asking price, less risk, less money put in. And it makes me feel better where you can really start to, when it's all said and done and you've done average base rent or you were able to get an exorbitant amount of money monthly for it, and you do tell them what the fee is, and they get ready to write you the check when it's all said and done, it makes me feel better that we absolutely justify value in that. And that's a big thing for me. And I still have to, try to get over that hurdle every day, but I think if you can add value in that way, people tend not to fight you on it and just say, man, this guy just stuck a sign up and now he's charging me $15,000 to do and I've charged some exorbitant fees to people, but I have never had anyone come back after it and be like, I don't know if he was really worth that. We went above and beyond on how creative we can get. And I'm not going to sit here and say, AI and yada yada. Golly, I've got on CAD and I've got on Canva and whatever, and I've just drawn it out in person. And we just stuck it on an OM, and I had to hire somebody to make it look pretty because it's not my strong suit. But getting that ball rolling, that's where I think it's all going to now. You've got a lot of land coming up, a lot of dead space, more development, and people are bulldozing, blocks of trees to put in new strips and stuff like that. Getting that vision in front of people to either start pre-leasing to limit that risk or, getting leases signed so you can do some sort of small build-to-suit to limit the client's risk is invaluable nowadays.
Yeah.
And so you need to be an expert, I think, in that craft. And you at least need to look and ask those questions. When you go interview people, ask them that. And they may say, yeah, hey, we can do it. We heard 2 guys on a podcast talk about it, so yes, we can. But just check a track record.
Well, yeah, and something I would highly recommend before you get locked into any leases or purchases or anything like that on some of this land, figure out, in your due diligence, if you can actually get water or sewer there. Figure out if you're leasing a 5-acre piece of land and no drainage has been done to it and that you don't have to put 3 acres of that land into a catchment pond because of what you're going to build on it is not going to allow the water to move the same way it's moving now. There's some of the things, like I said, on one of these properties, it's and another one with another adjoining, that's come up. It's you get into some of these areas where, if we're going to build a 100,000 square foot building on this, where the property owner wants to build a 300,000 square foot building, but they're not allowed to because they have to, on their 5 acres, they have to turn 3 acres of it into catchment pond. Because of the concrete parking lot they're going to put, the rooftop that's going to be there, it all plays into the effect of how water's moving around and the low areas of that area, and so what we're working on for them now is kind of getting 3 or 4 separate property owners together to try, and I'm not saying this is going to work, but to try to get to where, hey, look, we all agree that we're going to do, this is going to be a multi-project, water abatement type deal where we're going to do our part here on this property and we're going to do their part here and their part here, and it's all going to lead into this back here, which should be enough catchment pond for all of this, and it's going to stay that way. And then each separate property owner is going to do this. And oh, by the way, on this side, another property owner, they're going to cut a drainage pond, a drainage ditch that leads into all of this on this side of the property, which is also going to help this adjoining property. And so it's very, it's going to be a lot of, we'll just say meetings to have meetings, but it's going to be a lot of conversation involved with trying to utilize as much, especially for me, interstate frontage property. To utilize as much of that, because that's where everybody wants to be, and that's where the most value in the land is going to be, is right adjacent. And so how can we utilize as much of that as possible? And I understand the water needs to get out, but what can we do to work together to get this across property lines? Because at the end of the day, if I get it off of my property here and I get it sitting here, it's still got to go out. It all still has to go south.
Somebody's getting the short end of the stick.
Somebody's going to get it. So if we can work this deal where we're all in agreement, because it's, as I said, I think it's 3 or 4 separate property owners. If we're all in agreement, we all want this water out of here. How do we do this together and utilize some of the things that are already in place, and then maybe expand on those? And so there's a lot that goes into it. But again, before you get locked into a land lease or something like that where you want to develop it, make sure you can get flooding or you can get water and sewer, because there are some properties right now that are having those issues, and they're wanting to build big, like you said, trailer parks and stuff, and they just don't have the capacity for water or sewer. And I'll tell you, from the city standpoint, it's a lot of money to put that infrastructure in.
Yep.
You'll never get that back. And so it's
they
one of the,
typically want job producing things
Right.
that get put in there.
Right. And so, there's a situation going on right now that's like that, where politics have gotten involved, where the city said no, and then the council said yes, and it's created this rub between property owners that knew from the beginning that, hey, we can't do, if you're going to do this, this is what you got to do. And then they're trying to get someone else to pay for it, and it's caused a big issue, because at the end of the day, it's very expensive to do a lot of that underground work, and it's also really hard to charge for all of that underground work on the individual properties that you're building out. And so it becomes this big convoluted deal. So that's what I said, make sure you can get water and sewer, and you can get those due diligence, man. We have people that would call us at the city. I can't tell you how many will serve letters I got for people that were not property owners, but they just wanted to know, hey, if I put 20 toilets on this property, can the city, take that sewer and provide the water and stuff for it? And yeah, absolutely, you can do that. Boom. And there were some properties like, no, we can't.
Yeah.
So, and it's before, and I had one, it's like, look, we want this. We want to put 40 beds here. Can we do it? And it was, man, we're doing the math. We're trying to figure it out. We need to do some stuff on our end. I can't give you that letter right now. And like,
right.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm not buying that property. I'll go spend this money somewhere else.
Yep.
And it's, it's in the not even in due diligence, before the due diligence, before any offers were ever made, before any of that went down. It was just hey, this is what I'm thinking.
Yep.
Should I be thinking about this?
Right. Yeah.
And so there are ways to work through a lot of that. And I think, if you can't tell here, that the boring governmental side, the politics of it all, I'll take care of all that stuff, and the valuation and stuff like that. Alex is pretty spot on with a lot of how this stuff goes. And as you can tell, please bring us some land deals, because I love watching them squirm. It's a lot of fun.
Just is awesome part of the, but it's where everything is going, and just like DJ said, we're lagging, and as the stuff comes in and the tax money gets spent and the jobs are getting produced, this city will slowly have to start putting in all of that stuff. And so more land will again come up to be usable once again. And I think there's no better time than now to sharpen that skill set and become a master in that, subset of craft. And, are we good at it? Yes. Is it super fun?
I think for me, I think it's fun because it is, at the end of the day, this line was dropped to me about a year ago from someone on this Meta project. He said, man, I've worked these deals 3 and 4 times now, where we move into a market just like Monroe. Not a whole lot of people are living here. He said, I would not be surprised if the city of Monroe's population wasn't 100,000 plus in 10 years. And as a 20-something plus year resident of this place, I looked at him and somebody that's forward thinking, and I'm like, you're crazy. Where was the last one? Oh, it was outside of Fort Worth. Oh, okay. And I'm looking for excuses. Like, oh, okay, that's why. Yeah. And then, I said that. He's like, no, that doesn't have anything to do with it. Yeah, it didn't hurt it, but it didn't have anything to do with it. And he said, and it's not just us. It's what follows us. He said, we'll do this one, and then you got this, and you got this, and you got this. And it's the kind of the ping pong effect. It's always been affectionately called the McDonald's effect, right? They put on a corner and another one shows up and another one shows up. The things that are coming and the construction and the size, just the sheer magnitude of this Meta project and all the things going on with it, how long we're going to be in construction. You're going to have those working nomads come through here, but you're also going to have families. They're like, look, my kids, I can move my family here, and my kids will be 7-8 years. I mean, go middle school to high school, and even get into college, in the time we live there and work on this project. And so you'll have people start coming in and start kind of inserting themselves into our market, which then will need more restaurants. You'll need more entertainment. You'll need more, solution-based businesses, service-based businesses, accountants, things like that. Like, a lot of that stuff is going to grow. And up until really about 6-7 months ago, I didn't really believe that the population was going to jump like that. And I'm at the point now, I'm like, no, I'm starting to actually drink the Kool-Aid on that. There are people, like I said, I've gotten random phone calls from companies in, Timbuktu. They're like, hey, we're coming down there. I need to buy 30 houses. Where do we need to go? Who do we need to talk to? And it's just, man, get online. And that was one of the things we said at the city, man, just put your stuff online. Yeah. Post it online. That's where they're looking. There's a lot of people coming here that don't have a clue. Let us do it for you. I mean, if you're watching this, let us post it online for you. We'll take care of that. We have access to some sites that get a lot of traffic all over the country. People that are looking at our market that are not so much looking at MLS and they're not driving around and looking at for sale for lease signs. They're driving around, so to speak, is online. Yeah, or
a hired site selector to come into an emerging market. Yeah,
and a lot of the big I'm not going to say you're never going to land a Meta, but companies like that are using Louisiana Economic Development. They're using GrowNELA. They're using statewide funding for these projects, and for the most part, if you got 5 acres, 10 acres, even 50 acres, you're getting into that world. But 5-10 acres, you're probably going to use local realtors and or even regional kind of big market realtors that are multi-state licensed and to do projects. And so you have those dynamics that are going to come through. Now, if you own 1,500 acres, 2,000 acres, and it's dry, I would highly recommend. Like, you come to me with this, I'm going to call GrowNELA for you. I'm going to call LED and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this being a mega site, and allow them to push and I would gladly put our name on it. But for the most, if you're looking for something and it's that prime of real estate, there are other entities that I would highly recommend, because talking to a friend last night. This whole Meta deal was negotiated at DC Mardi Gras 2 years ago, which for us, we went down every year, or went up every year to go lobby and stuff like that with our national politicians. But it was a deal where Meta was there and they were talking, and they came to that, and it turned into the director LED talking with them like, look, we have sites in the state of Louisiana. You should really look into that, and kind of introduce them to people from Northeast Louisiana, from New Orleans, from Lafayette, and through that whole process, they really started looking, but it was because you had people like, and this is the kind of the helpful part of it. It's because we have the Speaker of the House being from Shreveport, somebody over appropriations being from Rayville or Monroe, should I say? You know, and the minority whip being from New Orleans. Like the state of Louisiana has positioned itself in D.C. in a way to maybe not win, but to be a part of all the very, very large conversations that are going on about development, about opportunities. And, you know, real estate, a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know and who you can connect to what at the right time in the right world. And so there are things, like I said, that are going on there. Look, the Secretary Bourgeois with LED said when the dust is all settled, the state of Louisiana will have 14 data centers.
Jeez.
How many of those land in this area? I can't speak to that. But she said, I mean, that was like 14 that are going to land in the state. And I know there's a couple in South Louisiana, and there's, you know, but man, I hope at least 3 or 4 of them land up here, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so, but with all that being said, like there's a lot of traction going on. There's the first U.S. Chip manufacturing company got announced in Ruston, and Ruston is going to play. I mean, people that go to Ruston use our hotels over here. I mean, there are people that work here. I mean, when Buc-ee's gets open, I can guarantee you there's going to be people from West Monroe driving over to work there. You know, it's going to become this big, like you said, use the word symbiotic area of growth together. And Chase, I think, just did a ribbon cutting on their building over there. There's a tremendous amount of movement that's going on around this Northeast Louisiana. I'm excited to be a part of it. Part of why I left the mayor's office to come get in here and be a part of the solution on a lot of those things. And there's also, like I said, for developer standpoint, it is the Wild West. There are deals.
Yeah.
There are deals where you can get in and you can get something for nothing and turn around and flip it pretty heavily, pretty quickly, because you have to get some of the red tape out of the way. You have, like you said, you have to visualize it for some people, and there are things coming that are on the radar that are going to land in our market. And if you guys need any help, we'd love to help however we can. Sell, lease. I know we're talking about leases today, but
literally the sky's the limit, and we've had a lot of exposure just listening to DJ talk. But we've had a lot of exposure with the subsidiaries behind that big boom of, if you build it, they will come. We've done a lot of work with a lot of those people, and it's not just the Hollywood. Again, I don't want to harp on it too much, but Northeast Louisiana is essentially DFW metropolitan. Like, Dallas is an hour away from Dallas. Well, Holly Ridge is an hour away from Ruston. It's all going to get it. I don't think people need to be just hyper-focused on one central area. And, maybe to help ease some of that and to get you over that mental hurdle, a lot of it is not, we're getting the next whatever restaurant coming in. It's a lot of local people saying, I've been wanting to do this and there's enough stuff happening. We will put one in. It's not thinking, oh my God, we're going to get 6 new Cheesecake Factories. Maybe not. But will you get new restaurants and new mom and pop shops and new this and new that? We have prime developers from a bunch of QSRs reaching out all the time. We need to go here. We need to look at this. We need to look at that. So we're finally on the map, in a sense, for new and upcoming change of commercial and residential and development and warehousing, all of this stuff. We've been on the bleeding edge of it for a while at the firm, and DJ's got a lot of expertise in a lot of that preliminary due diligence and a lot of that stuff to make sure the ball, once it is rolling, won't get stuck somewhere. And so if you hear this or you just run across us or whatever and you're not from the area, just know we've been doing it for a minute. We've been in different roles other than this, so it's a broad range of experience. And
if you are Cheesecake Factory, we got a building for you.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
It definitely would. But
they sold a ton of cheesecake out of there in its original.
Oh, hey, I know what he's talking about now. It took me 5 minutes to put that together. To round up leasing as a whole, get with someone, I would think. Do your research, read a little bit, know what you want. Know it's a big negotiation, but also get with people who have done a myriad of these things. And we may conspire an idea that says, man, I needed this really bad, but this was my hiccup. And it's like, well, man, we deal with that hiccup 1,000 times, and this is the pivot, and normally it works for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's what we can, get an attorney, obviously, but also work with some guys that have either done it personally, lived in it, or do this for a living day in, day out. Same on the landlord rep side. Like, it helps if you're one of the lucky few that have dirt that's usable. It helps to get the ball rolling with people who can send out drones and all of this. I mean, we've got, I don't know how many videographers and professional dudes who went to school for the graphic rendering of, and we just render it and stick it out there, and the ball's rolling, and people are like, man, I didn't think it could be this, but if they're putting that out there, obviously they've done the checks and they know it can. So just to ramble onto that, we know what we're doing.
A little bit. Yeah.
So,
I think that's a good place to.
yeah.
So, thank y'all again. We got plenty of more of these coming out. So, tune in. We're going to be talking commercial real estate for the most part, how it's affected our lives, how we live in it every day, what we're working through every day. And for anybody out there, if you ever want to be a guest, want to come talk with us, come speak with us, reach out to us, send me a message on Facebook, send him a message, or you text me, whatever, if you have my number. We'd love to talk about, opportunities, ideas, things that have happened, recommendations you may have, recommendations you may not have. Just the ins and outs of how you do business and what's the best way you believe can strengthen your business, your commercial real estate or property in our area. That's what we want to talk about. That's what we're always going to talk about.
For sure. And I'm new to being on camera, but if you need me to either put my money where my mouth is, or you want to see something very granular, like how would you go, A to Z on a lease, or how would you break down a deal, or what's the steps of due diligence from my ideas to put this, and how do I get from there to here? We absolutely can spend an hour doing that, like a whole mock run of a deal, a lease, a due diligence, a whatever. So we can do that. We'll try to get some, if that's an overwhelming request, we'll try to get something where we can share a screen too. So it's, visual, but however you would reach out to the parties that be and want that, just they'll let me know and we can kind of plan a lesson from there.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Adios.